Welcome to episode 43 of Believe in TCU. As part of the Believe Network, I'm Zion Trammell, and I'm joined by Seth Dowdle. Today, we've got another TCU baseball episode, and this weekend, let's just say it went a lot better for the Horned Frogs. They lost to Arizona the week before, but a series win at home against Cincinnati, their final home series this season. Really much better overall. Now, Cincinnati, I think last week, I just want to get this
We
out
did
before
dog.
we.
We did dog on them. We need to apologize to Cincinnati.
Yes.
We're not familiar with your game, Cincinnati.
Because I just look at record. I don't follow Big 12 baseball like I do with Big 12 football and basketball and what's going on there. Baseball, I'm kind of just like box score, or looking at the standings every once in a while. But Cincinnati was like red hot. They took 2 out of 3 against Oklahoma State, but more impressively, the weekend before, they swept Kansas, like one of the better teams in the country. They won 7-2, 18-14, and 13-4. And then they had beaten Oral Roberts 10-2. But their offense was red hot, and they were very good this weekend, but TCU's was just a little bit better overall. They won 17-11 on Friday, 6-7 on Saturday, and then they lost 9-8 on Sunday. But um, I don't know, Seth. I mean, I think we should start things off by saying bats, bats, and bats. The offense was red hot this weekend.
20 hits on Friday, 9 hits on Saturday, and then 16 on Sunday. For no team scored less than 6 runs in a game. That was on Saturday when Cincinnati scored 6. TCU scored 7 or more each game, and they lost one of them. So it's kind of nuts what was going on with the bats for both teams. You mentioned, Cincinnati's offense was red hot coming in. That did not change really this weekend in Fort Worth. It was just that TCU decided to bring their Maruchis and their Eastons as well. I don't know what metal bat brands we're using nowadays. Victus? Does Victus make metal bats, or are they just wood? But anyway, it doesn't matter.
I don't think so.
Yeah, just a lot of really good offense and some not so good pitching. Like second straight week in a row, we've kind of seen Tommy Laporte be a little mortal. He was good against Arizona and didn't bring his best stuff, but only went 4 1/3. And if you had told me that, hey, Tommy Laporte's only going to go 4 1/3 innings and TCU's going to win, I would have said, what are you talking about? Well, they did. They won. I guess they scored 17 runs, so it's fine. And both of their wins were come from behind efforts. They were losing at one point pretty late in the game on Friday and Saturday, and they almost mounted a comeback effort on Sunday as well. So the bats were great against, as you mentioned earlier, a pretty sizzling team in Cincinnati. Maybe not the best team in the Big 12, but definitely one of the better ones in the last couple of weeks.
They definitely have been. And just with Tommy Laporte, his stat line is absolutely bonkers. 4 1/3, 7 hits, 5 earned runs. You're like, oh, 2 walks. Okay. 11 strikeouts. What?
He faced 22 batters, and he struck out
What?
11 of them. He threw 102 pitches in 4 1/3 innings, which is crazy, by the way, and struck out 11.
Good Lord. I mean, what? I mean, it was a very weird day. It was a lot of like high counts. I mean, especially in that first inning, a 3-2 count, 0-2, but then, 2-2, just a lot of 2-3 ball counts for Tommy Laporte. And he didn't walk a lot of guys. Again, he only walked 2, but then he struck out 11. So it ended his day pretty early. Obviously, again, not the best performance from him, but, it didn't really matter with the way the offense was working. And, I mean, really, Anthony Silva obviously kind of took the spotlight this weekend with his heroics on Saturday, a walk-off home run that was absolutely crushed. He had multiple hit games on Saturday and Sunday, went 1 for 2 on Friday. So, really good day at a really good weekend for the shortstop Anthony Silva, and it just feels like every weekend we're talking about some of the same guys, but there is somebody new that each weekend that continues to emerge. This offense is just so deep; they can really go out there and knock a pitcher out pretty early in a ball game.
It is a totally different story than last season for sure with this offense.
Mm-hmm.
And you can credit that to multiple things. Maybe these guys are a bit more experienced, but there's a lot of freshmen on this team. And we talked about it before the season started, man. Bill Mosiello is back, and like this is kind of what is going to happen whenever he's at the helm. Is that this offense is potentially going to click again, and it absolutely has. The pitching is not the start. Pitching has been a little bit more inconsistent, but that has kind of been the bread and butter of the Kirk Saarloos tenure is inconsistent pitching. Either sometimes it's really good and sometimes it's a little bit shaky. And that kind of did TCU in a little bit this weekend and made some of these games probably a bit more tight than they needed to be, given how many runs TCU was scoring. But again, doesn't matter. You end your final home series with a bang. You win 2 out of 3. You head into the final weekend. You're playing a team in Utah that you feel like you can beat. And even though you're sitting like in a tie for, I believe, third in the Big 12 standings at 17-10, there is still an avenue where you could potentially claim the Big 12 crown should West Virginia and Arizona State decide to not play good baseball this next weekend and TCU goes out and takes care of business against Utah. Um, Obviously, that's kind of an outlier situation, but still, it's in the cards. And if you had told Kirk Saarloos and the staff that you're going in the final weekend and you got a chance to win the Big 12 regular season title, I think they take that no matter what.
Yeah, that's it's good. It's good to be kind of in that, being able to be in that spot and feeling good about where you're at. They're tied with Kansas at 17-10, West Virginia at 19-6, and then Arizona State at 18-9. Um, Feeling good about where TCU stands there. And we know how they play at Globe Life. I'm excited. I'm getting ready for that, for the Big 12 tournament. I think it should be a lot of fun. I'm excited for that.
Yeah, that is, when you talk about like how can you boost your resume in the Big 12 tournament or like in your conference tournament, it's really tough to like, those things usually don't move the needle all that much unless you actually like win the whole thing. Um, so I don't know if I expect that to like when we talk, because I'm sure we'll have a conversation here in a minute about potential postseason standing and where TCU is potentially heading, and how they can potentially get themselves in a better spot for that in a little bit. But I don't know how much a conference tournament win would affect that, but it certainly does not hurt, as the 2020 was that 2023, I guess the 2023 team would attest to. Go out there, just win that conference tournament and put yourself in a spot heading into a regional, especially with a little some momentum as well, where you feel a little bit confident.
Seth, you're good at that, like the bracketology stuff. Do you know where we could find the latest like college baseball playoff
Bracketology.
projections? Yes. Is there a
D1
call it bracketology?
D1 baseball posts like a collective one every once in a while. I'll see if I can find that. So just give me just 1 second, and I'll find that.
Yeah. We mentioned the poor pitching, and Cademan Parker as well. You're like, okay, well, Tommy Laporte struggled. Like, how's Cademan Parker going to do? Hopefully, you can get something better. He went an inning and a third, 5 hits, 4 runs, but from that Saturday game, we got better. We got a lot better stuff from Braden Sloan. We talked about that last week about as someone that we're hoping to see a bit more improvement, getting back to his early season form. Um, he went 4 2/3. He walked 3, but he struck out 5, and he only gave up 1 hit, and it was, you know, a 2-run home run. So outside of that, he gave TCU a chance in that game and gave him really good stuff. And then Nate Stern, 3 innings, 1 hit baseball. So if we want to talk a little bit about positives from the pitching, those two guys really gave TCU a chance to win that game, and then they obviously did after Silva hit that walk-off home run. So really, for me, it was good to see Sloan kind of have that bounce back.
Yeah, because we talked about that specifically last week. That was someone that started off really good, and then now had obviously kind of gone on a bit of a downturn, and then to come out there and just give up that one hit, which was a 2-run homer, but still signs of progress. And then you mentioned Nate Stern. That's kind of almost the underlying reason why TCU won that game. Is there were some consistent run scoring from Cincinnati for like the first game and a half of the series, and Nate Stern, as well as Braden Sloan, came in there and said, "You're not going to score again." And that gave TCU the opportunity to come back via the Chase Brunson homer late in that game, and then set up Anthony Silva, bottom of the ninth, solo homer to walk it off. So that's
Yeah.
how you get it done right there.
Yeah, Nate Stern's been good for TCU. Not this was his longest outing of the season. He's usually been going one inning, but he's only given up 3 earned runs this season in several appearances. Another freshman, just goes to show the talent that this freshman class has. That Coach Sarlos has been able to get for this season. Another guy that's contributing as a freshman.
Yeah, it's kind of reminiscent of 2023, where like a lot of the key
Yeah.
contributors were freshman class guys. That's a good thing. That's a really good thing. I like it a lot. And now it's kind of supplemented with guys that were built here in the program. I think a lot that were freshmen on that 23 team, like Carson Bowen and
Hmm.
Anthony Silva. It's kind of really cool to
Yeah.
see.
It is cool. Yeah. I mean, from Sawyer Stroh-Snyder uh, to Noah Franco, Nate Stern, probably, and someone else that I'm missing here. It's a really deep um, freshman class, Nolan Traeger as well. So excited for the future for TCU baseball. But Seth, did you find that bracketology?
I did. It's as of May 6th, though it might be a bit outdated. We're recording this on May
Okay.
12th.
Yeah.
And I have some of my own sort of projections and thoughts. They right now D1 baseball has TCU as a 2 seed in the Oregon regional with Cal Poly and Fairfield. Oregon would be the 13th national seed. The winner of that regional would play the winner of the LSU regional, who are the 4th seed according to D1 baseball. For that, and this is a week ago, so things could have changed. And when we look at how the selection committee selects these teams, one of the stats they look at a lot is RPI, which is a thing that I don't really understand, but it's a number that helps kind of categorize teams. TCU has by far pretty much the best RPI in the Big 12 at 16.
Mm-hmm.
Smack dab in the middle of Tennessee and Ole Miss. West Virginia, who has the best record of the Big 12, is 24th. That's thanks to TCU having, I'd say, a better record in, looks like quad 2. They have more quad 2 wins than West Virginia does. So, if anything, if TCU continues to just hold serve and win games and potentially pick up some bigger wins in the Big 12 tournament, if the committee really values the RPI statistic, TCU could be in the hosting conversation.
That'd be cool. That'd be good that'd be awesome. Especially because TCU's been really good at home this season. That would be um, very beneficial.
Yes.
Big series though. I just looked. Big series this weekend. West Virginia's taking on Kansas this weekend. That's a huge series for the Big 12. The final final series for the Big 12 in the regular season. West Virginia is coming off a series loss to Kansas State, but that is some big time implications as far as seeding goes for those two teams. I think it's pretty much impossible for TCU to outright win the Big 12.
Maybe not outright win it, but they have the tiebreaker over Kansas. So this is where
Mm-hmm.
this comes in. They do not have the tiebreaker over Arizona State.
Yep.
So Arizona State sits at second at 18-9, and West Virginia in first at 19-6. 19-7.
19-6. Yeah.
19-6. Okay. If
25 games.
I think there's some game cancellations potentially in there,
Ugh,
so
that
that's really
sucks.
muddies the water, right? Where we're going to get to like winning percentage and whatnot. It's going to be wonky, but there is still a path, I believe. I think I've seen that there's still an open possibility, and I think what that really includes is pretty much a Kansas sweep. TCU also sweep. Arizona State lose like 2 out of 3. Kansas and TCU tied at the top. TCU with the tiebreaker over Kansas. TCU regular season Big 12 champs is, I think, how that would play out.
So they
That's
wouldn't have
the
to
path.
share it with them?
They might share it, but in terms of seeding for the Big 12 tournament, I believe since TCU has the tiebreaker over Kansas, they would give it to TCU as the 1 seed in the Big 12 tournament, I think is how that would work.
Gotcha. Arizona State is in Stillwater to take on Oklahoma State this weekend. Oklahoma State's kind of been a tough team to read this season, but Arizona State is 9-8 on the road. Haven't been as good there. Oklahoma State 12-12 in the conference. So yeah, some things need to go right for TCU. I'm not concerned about what the Horned Frogs. They will take care of business. They should sweep Utah. They are not good. That we can confirm. Utah is not good.
We have confirmed this. We did a bad job of confirming our anti-Cincinnati bias last week, but yeah, no. I mean, they did just win a series against Arizona, which is kind of wacky and weird. But they got swept by Houston before that. Got swept by Kansas before that. Lost a series to Baylor. The only series it looks like they've won in the Big 12 was that Arizona series, as well as series wins against Oklahoma State and BYU, who, as you mentioned earlier, are kind of in the bottom to middle tier of the Big 12. So yeah, Utah, according to the record books, the worst team in the Big 12. But hey, a team fighting for their last life, because not every team gets in the Big 12 tournament. We know that now, I believe, because it's an odd number.
Yeah.
And Utah doesn't want to be that person, doesn't want to be that team. So they might be fighting tooth and nail. They're trying to get there, but who knows? TCU's still gonna have to put out their best effort. And good news for them is they'll have some rest because they don't have a midweek game. Utah does. They play BYU tomorrow.
That's good. I'm glad. I'm done with the midweek games. I'm not a fan of them. I've mentioned that so many times through the show, but I don't like the midweek games.
They're just
Not a fan.
unnecessary tripwires.
Yes. Like, sure, there's some games against DBU that can help your RPI, but I don't know how that works. So does it? I don't know. It does, I'm sure.
I
But
did see RPI. RPI is weird. I saw that Iowa and Oregon State tied yesterday because it was either Iowa or Oregon State. I didn't know. One of them had to catch their flight, and if the game didn't end, then they were going to miss their flight. This is college baseball for you guys. They don't charter; they fly commercial. They fly. And so
oh my goodness.
it wasn't a conference game, so it didn't matter. So they were like, okay, we're just going to call it in like the 10th inning, I think, or something like that. A little unfortunate, but everyone was like, what does this do to, because Iowa's kind of a bubble team, and they were like, what does this do to Iowa's RPI? And they were like, and I think Kendall Rogers was like, I think that you get half a point for a tie.
What? Half a point?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Okay, that's confusing. College
Don't
baseball,
tie.
man.
It's Utah. Don't tie.
Yeah, don't do that. College baseball is weird. It is so bizarre, but I love it. And definitely excited to see where TCU, because last year we were very much on the bubble of, making it in. Obviously, we got left out, and it was unfortunate, but I'm excited to see TCU be back in this and hopefully make a run. But we'll be discussing that as that run goes on, and next weekend we'll preview the Big 12 tournament as well as talking about that series against Utah. But the best time of the year for college baseball is right around the corner, so very excited for that. But that'll finish things up here for this episode of Believe in TCU. You can Follow us on Instagram, subscribe to our YouTube page, or listen to us wherever you get your podcasts, all at Believe in TCU. So for Seth Dowdle, I'm Zion Trammell. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you guys next time. And as always, go Frogs.